Hello, welcome to Big League Coaching. Today, we're going to talk base running. What a great class we have for you today. A 14-year Major League Baseball player. He played in the big leagues. He was an outfielder, had a great arm, had speed. And one of the things, he was an all-star, National League all-star, as well as a World Series champion with the Cincinnati Reds. Let me introduce you to Joel Youngblood today. How are you, Joel?
I'm doing great, Bill. Everything is doing really well, and I cannot tell you how happy I am to have this opportunity to share my experience and help young players learn how to be a better player.
Well, one of the things you did after you got out of the game, you were 6 years at the big league level as a base running coordinator. And also you went with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and you were 8 years there working with all type of players from AAA all the way down to A leagues. So you know what? Today we're going to talk about sprint mechanics. And by sprint mechanics, it's speed. We always talk about being so fast. So speed mechanics means so much, especially when you're looking at sprinters, the fastest men in the world. You're talking about fundamentals of a runner, a base runner, as well as the good and bad examples of being a base runner. I'm really excited to get this class started, Joel. The class is up to you right now, my friend. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Bill. One thing that I really want people to understand is there's not a lot of education or teaching about running correctly or sprinting correctly or sprint mechanics. And I really believe this class is very valuable for people to understand how to improve their speed, understand the difference between a baseball runner and a sprinter. So we're going to jump into this class, and I'm going to show you what I've learned. All right, we have Big League Coaching, Speed Mechanics class. All right, we need to morph into sprinters. So as you can see, this base runner looks exactly like a sprinter when he morphed into a sprinter. Just an example of what a base runner can become when he steals a base. He can become a sprinter just by understanding what will improve his ability to create a quicker time to first to second base, to eliminate the amount of time that the catcher has to throw him out. So we're going to talk about sprint mechanics first. Basically, we're going to look at sprinters and we're going to identify what they're doing. Now look right here on this, look at, they started off low, look how straight they are, their heads are up, look at their strides, straight out of their body, straight up. Now, when I was younger, I was always told that you're supposed to be leaning forward. I wasn't really told you only lean forward to start off your sprints, because when you're sprinting, you're starting from scratch, you're trying to get momentum, and therefore your steps are shorter, which means your body is more bent down. The longer, when you start increasing your strides, your body starts coming up. So look how they all finished. They're all straight. Okay, speed equals stride length times stride frequency. So the taller a sprinter is, the more of an advantage he has, because he will have a longer stride length. If you're running slow, it's probably because you have a short stride length. Your stride length is short. If you want to run faster, you have to increase your stride length. And when I signed in 1970 with the Cincinnati Reds, and when I went down to Florida, they had a sprint coach, a track coach come to spring training, and he put a bunch of lines like the chalk line, the baseline. He put lines out on a field, and he started off probably 3 feet, then went to 3 feet 6 inches, or 3 feet 4 inches, and he kept increasing it by an inch or 2 inch as the lines got bigger. And we used to have to run and try to hit the lines when we'd run, basically keep it, increasing our strides, understanding what is our maximum stride length. So it's a good thing to work on when you're running, is trying to increase your stride length. Something else I learned is if you're walking, you need to look down at your feet, and your feet should be straight. If you're walking pigeon-toed, if your feet are in or out, if this is your toes and you're walking this way, look how much you're losing. If this is your toe and you're running this way, look how much you're losing. So if you multiply that times 10 or 15 strides, you've lost probably a foot to a foot and a half. So when you're walking, you always want to try to keep your feet straight, keep your feet under your knees, and this will improve your sprint mechanics, because now you're controlling the distance of your foot. When you hit the ground, you're maximizing your glide or the distance of your stride.
You know, Joe, one of the things I saw in that little race you showed, every one of those sprinters were straight. Every stride was straight, just like you're talking about. And I believe when you veer off, like you're saying, it doesn't get that full power going forward. And I really like that point.
Well, you know something, Bill, when I was, you get influenced by other people that run fast. That doesn't mean they have good mechanics. That just means they have good skill sets. And I used to see a lot of people when I was in high school, they were a little bow-legged and their feet were kind of run inside. They didn't straighten their legs out. Even though you might be bow-legged a little bit, you can still control your feet. And I always thought, maybe I should run that way. That's how you run faster. But I believe this class is really dedicated to take away the confusion and misunderstanding of what people are doing and relate it to what people have to do to be a world champion sprinter. Foot position. Foot position is very important. I talked about foot position being straight. Now we're going to talk about how the foot needs to hit the ground. So always have the toes up. And the emphasis is on the big toe, because the big toe controls the majority of the foot. It's the biggest toe in the foot. So you want to make sure you get the toes up when you're striding out. You want to strike the ground with the pad of your foot, or where the cleats are on your feet. If you've ever run track, you have a bunch of little cleats in there, spikes, and you always want to land on the spikes. So if you hit the spikes first, then when the toe is going to push you through the spikes. So this is an example right here. This is the ball of the foot. He's on the ball of the foot. The toe has just come down, but he landed here. Then after he gets past this, the toe is going to hit the ground. Another example of a pitcher. He's reaching out. This foot is bent a little bit, 90 degrees right here from the shin and the knee. It's 90 degrees straight down when you hit the ground. Very important. Little bitty things like this can improve your speed. By what, I'm not sure, but it will improve your speed by some percentage. Anything that, I've always felt this in any game I played. If I have a 1% advantage, I have an advantage. So if I can create any advantage, I'm going to have an opportunity to be better than the other person or who I am competing against. So we're trying to create advantages. Advantages in what? Our ability to run the bases correctly. Knees and legs. So I have a couple of pictures here, and we're going to talk about the knees. I told you about, see 90 degrees down, coming down from his knee. He has not reached the full extension yet where he can get 90 degrees. His hands, where do the hands go? The hands come up to the face, not to the chin, but next to the chin. Look at his thumb over here. See his thumb? His thumb's not under his head, it's next to his head. It's in line with his shoulders. So if you look at your arm, your hand is straight down from your shoulder. So your hand should come straight up to your shoulder, next to your head, somewhere in this position. I have two diagrams here, 90 degrees. You're supposed to be your quad, this is the quad, is supposed to be 90 degrees from the chest. And this 90 degrees will determine where you are in your your sprint. So if you're starting off your sprint early, your 90 degrees is going to be bent over a little bit, like this gentleman is right here. He's more in the driving, establishing, trying to get to a maximum speed. So his head's down. They call it the bullet. Create the bullet. You want to have your head down so you're not getting any draft. You're trying to get your momentum or your weight in front of your knees, so you're pushing your body instead of pulling your body. When you start getting, so as your strides start increasing, your back's going to start coming up, because once your foot starts reaching out, it's pushing your body back. So you're reaching, pushing back, reaching, pushing back, reaching, pushing back, until you get into the straight line where you have your maximum stride. Now you're 90 degrees straight up. So now your quads are 90 degrees from the ground and your back is going to be straight. So there's a little bit of a difference if you look at this head and this head. He's more into a stride. He's more stretched out. He's more trying to create the speed and create the strides. So that's why we always start off in a bent over position. If you think about a track star, when they get in the blocks, they're looking down at the blocks. They have their hands set. When they first come out of the blocks, they're taking little bitty jab steps. Boom, 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 boom. Each step is getting larger, 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 larger. As these steps get larger, your back is starting to come up. Once it comes up, you're at maximum speed.
So Joe, when I'm looking at both these runners, and I'm parallel to a base runner, it's very parallel, because the guy on the left with the 90 degree 0.3 is really right when he takes that first stride. And this is kind of like the beginning of the race, right when he's coming off the blocks. And the guy with 90.1 is really in full stride. But I love the point about where his heads are. The head is down, the full compression with the arms and legs are pumping. What do you see when you're looking at both these runners with the angle of the head especially?
Well, it's real simple, Bill. It's if you look at this guy and if you look at the shoulders and look at the head's coming up here and his arms over here. This sprinter right here, if you draw a line, if I drew a line from his head down to his foot, you could see the angle. But he's still maintaining the 90 degrees, but he's still in a leaned over position. So here's the angle he has. Here's where he's pushing his weight. He's trying to establish. If you draw a line down now, this line's going more this way. Mm-hmm. So you can see his head starting to come up a little bit because he's starting to maximize his stride length, and that's going to raise his body. And eventually the line's going to be here, straight down. So this will be the start of the steal. This would be almost in the middle of the base path. And the only difference between a sprinter and a base stealer is the base stealer is going to end up going back to slide when the sprinter is going to go through the tape for the win. And that's the only difference. All right. Look at the knees. How far the knees are apart. This arrow here is longer than this one because he's just now starting to establish his frequency and stride length. This gentleman here has already established his frequency and stride length, and so his knee separation is really huge. And look how far the elbow's coming up. You know, and so it's harder to see this one right now because he's in the middle of his, he's not in sync with his feet at this moment, but this right hand and left foot is synced up. The left hand and right foot will be synced up when they hit the ground. So this angle, see the angle? This means he's in an early stage of sprinting. This right here means he's in the middle stages of sprinting.
Well, you look at both of those guys and they're just so athletic. When you talk about the head to the toe, the straight line, it matters so much. And it really matters on one bit of one step or two steps could slow you down. But just outstanding the way you're presenting the direction of both runners.
Well, Bill, it's every aspect of running can be improved. And that's just like everything else in baseball. And that's the reason why big league coaching is trying to help everybody that we possibly can. How often can you get an ex-major league coach or ex-major league player that has coached for 25 years to come in and tell you the intricate parts of the learning curve to make you a better player? And that's what we're here for.
And
So
Joel, when you were talking, you know, when you coached in the big leagues and the minor leagues, these are some of the points that you reflected on with all your runners then, correct?
Absolutely. I wish I was taught this when I was a young gentleman in baseball. Baseball's transition really it changed a lot. They have a lot of specialized coaching now for each department. In the older days, we didn't have any rovers. We didn't have any extra coaches. We had a manager and a trainer, and that was it. And so if you just had to really rely on what other people were doing and try to learn from their skill set, how to try to improve you. And one of the people that I was fortunate enough to play with was Ken Griffey Sr. And he was very, very fast and a great player. And we were really close. And so I studied him a lot. I never beat him in a race, but always wanted to. So we're going to talk about the hips. Okay. The hips are always aligned with the rest of your body. You know, you never want to run crooked. The only time I would say your shoulders are not aligned with your hips and when you're in the outfield trying to catch a fly ball running back. Facing straight down the base path. Straight down the base path, which means behind the base path, not in the middle of the base path, behind the base path. You want to stay away from the baseball. You want to stay away from the tag. Make it more difficult for the first base or the second baseman or the third baseman to tag you. Hip joints produce most of your power, and we have to understand, we have to run in a relaxed state where I can use the function of my hips to control my legs and my stride length. We always want to pound the ground hard when we hit the ground because that's going to create the leverage that we're going to push off when our toe hits the ground. We're going to use those cleats to push off. We don't want to get on top of the dirt because it will slide or slip. We want to put that foot in the ground and use the ground to push. We're pushing our body, not pulling our body. Okay, arms and hands. I have two photos up here. Now I'm taking the sprinter on the left and the base stealer on the right. Very, very similar. Look at the knee action. Look at the quad, 90 degrees. 90 degrees, heads down, hands coming up to the chin, hands coming up to the chin, not to the chin, next to the chin. Let me clarify that. Look at the elbow coming up. That's the drive. That's the force. That's if I'm forcing this elbow back, it's helping me get this arm forward. So look at my shoulder, straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line. I have to use different mechanisms in my body to create this movement to be in sync with my feet. So you have quickness with the upper part of your body with your arms, and you have quickness with your feet and your strides in the lower part of your body, but you have to sync them up. And you'll only know by how far you go back based on your stride length.
Joel, one of the things that I'm looking at both these guys with their head down, as a base runner, what happens if his head is up? What happens with that whole base running mechanism you're talking about?
Well, number one, Bill, is if you raise your head too early, it raises your body. And if you're raising your body, you're losing that 90 degrees and you're losing your ability to take the most aggressive stride in that position. And so if you look at these runners, again, I'm going to take a line from his head down to his foot, a line from his head down to his foot. They're identical. So basically, anytime you're still in the base, you have to get your weight distributed in front of your feet. And the only way I can do that is to get in front of my feet. I have, if I raise up too soon, now I have nothing, I don't have anything to push with. I have to get momentum and direction first. And I can only establish that with this angle. If sprinters didn't need starting blocks, they would start straight up. But they use starting blocks for a purpose, to get them out of the starting block quickly and straight and as close to the ground as possible to start creating momentum. And momentum starts with little movements of the feet. It's boom, 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 boom. They get longer and longer. And I'll tell you another good thing to do with if you're a coach or if you're a base runner and you want to work on checking out your strides. I used to take a rake and I would rake the infield so it was clean. And then I would have my base stealer steal. And then I would go back and I would show him his feet and how far apart they are. If they're not getting farther and farther, he's not doing it right. And so it's an awareness, an opportunity to show. So let's just say that you have 5 players you're going to work with today. You get on a baseball field that is nice and clean. One person can start from first, the next person can start behind him, then you can start behind him, working your way back to right field. All those areas are clean as long as they keep running straight. You can still show the difference of stride length, foot position, and it brings awareness, and you can identify and point out, you were taking too long of strides on your first 3 steps. You need to shorten those up. Because your third step was as long as your 5th step. That's incorrect. Your first step's going to be shorter. Second step's going to be a little bit longer. Third step's going to be a little bit longer. Fourth step's going to get really long. 5th step should probably be at maximum.
And as a coach, Joel, I mean, that's a perfect example of a high school coach, a little league coach, to get their kids out there to see if they are maximizing their length of their stride, because it's so important, especially as a base runner in baseball. Those first 2 or 3 steps are so important. And you just hit it right on the head of the nail about how you get those strides longer and longer once you break the blocks, like you're talking about a sprinter. But as a base runner, it's getting out and getting up.
Yes. Yep. And again, I want to remind everybody, running on a clean surface, this right over here, this is a clean surface. If you run back here, you can start. If you're one person, you can run 5 different times going back to right field, and you can go side by side and look down all your steps and see if you're improving. It's really, really a good opportunity to identify really what you're doing, except thinking what you're doing. The one thing that we have a real difficult problem with, Bill, is being deductive to ourselves. I cannot see myself do anything. I have to have somebody else to show me, or I have to video it to see it, or I have to have some type of evidence to see myself based on what I did. I call it the 3 V's. 1, 2, 3. Verbal is when I tell you what to do, what we're discussing now. Video is when I show you what you're doing, or I show you what somebody else is doing. And verbal, video, and I forgot the last one. Visual is when you see it. So for example, the last one right here, when you're able to identify, you already know what you're trying to do. You've heard me tell you, you've seen me show you. Now you have to visually see it. And the bottom line is what you're doing correct with what I'm trying to get you to understand? That's the key to this.
And I tell you what's a great point there when you throw the 3 V's out there. I love the point of having that dirt clean where you can check out your stride as you keep working on things. And that's the visual point right there of you're showing the track that these guys are running on. And as a base runner, every little half step to a full step means so much if you're going to be a good base stealer or not.
They call it a game of inches. And so if we can steal 2 or 3 inches here and there. It might make the difference of 5 stolen bases 1 year. So it's honestly, this is really what our goal is to help every person that loves this game of baseball have an opportunity to be a better player, so they continue to play this game, because you and I both love this game our whole life, and we're sharing our experience, and this is the important parts of what we're trying to do. Okay, here's a video. This area here is, I magnified it and I superimposed it on the same runner so you can see his feet. We've been talking about feet. We've been talking about hands. We've been talking about elbows. We've been talking about quads. We're talking about the balls of the feet, stride length. So let's watch this video and let's talk about it as it's rolling. So look at his foot. Watch it. He's just now starting. Look at his head. He's driving now. He's creating, these strides are not as long as they would normally be, but watch that toe, the big toe come up. That's going to keep him gliding. Look at that toe come up. See that toe? Now the palm, the pad of the foot with the cleats hit the track. Look at the toe. Look at this, 90 degrees. Watch his elbow. Look at his hand. Look at the distance here. The line straight right here. He's not in full speed.
Joel, he doesn't even look like he's running. It looks like he's gliding. He looks so perfect with the form that he has, especially with that big toe being that push-off foot. Just remarkable.
He reminds me of Willie McGee. I used to ask him all the time, how does it feel to run that fast?
They did. They had a bunch of them. Vince Coleman, Tommy Hurt. They had a good lineup back then.
Okay, now we're going to go from sprint position to still position. So we've talked about the sprinters in the first half of this lesson plan. Now we're going to talk about stealing, how we can incorporate the sprint mechanics into the steal mechanics. Base running tips. Okay, shoulders in line with the pitcher, 60-40. Left elbow and left hand position, right elbow and right hand. Chest is up, right with the athletic position. Legs are used to lower body to maximize explosive positions. Now I'm gonna show you this, and we're gonna talk about this a little bit. So I'm gonna back up. All right. Everybody's right here. First base, catcher. Pitcher. Shoulders in line with the pitcher. So I'm in line right now with my baseline. I'm in line with the catcher. Who has the ball? The pitcher does. Why do I care about the catcher? I don't. So I want to just turn my shoulders just a little bit. Now I'm facing, now my head is directly looking at the pitcher. This is what I call shoulders in line with the pitcher. 60-40. I'm talking about percentages. 60% on your right foot, 40% on your left foot. 60% on your right foot. Why would there be a difference between percentages with right foot and left foot? Well, your first priority as a base runner is to be able to get back to first base if it tries to pick you off. So the more weight I have on my right foot, the easier it is for me to transition back to first. So that's why they call it 60-40. So rotate. This is 60-40. See this? Okay. Left elbow and left hand in position. Position for what? Left elbow is pointing towards first base. Left hand is pointing towards second base, because when I turn, this is where I'm going to be running. So why wouldn't I not have this already ready? So I'm ready. So if I can position my elbow and ready for my arm action to start off with, I can eliminate trying to control this. Right elbow and right hand. I like to have the right elbow next to my side. What does it do? It moves my hand close to my knee. Now look at my arms. So if you're second base, this is the motion. But if I'm here, this is the action. So if I control this real fast, it's going to help me get into this motion that we just talked about, the sprint mechanics. You don't see sprinters running like this. So here's the, I want you to side view, pitcher, turn. Okay, chest is up with an athletic position, using the legs. So watch this. Turn. See my chest? I don't want to bend over too much because now my weight is in front of me. I want to have my weight on top of my legs. And so if I get down, what does that mean? Getting down for what? Getting down in the starting blocks. What does the sprinter do? Okay, look at me. I also like to open my right foot a little bit. So I'm in this position. Oh, I'm a sprinter? Oh, okay. Same position. Sprinters don't run from the starting blocks with their hips in line. They don't start off like this. They start off with their feet slightly apart in starting blocks and their shins are bent. So as a base stealer, I'm going to rotate with my right foot open a little bit behind my left foot. Why? So my knee has a way to get past my leg. If my leg is in front of my left knee, what's going to happen? I'm going to go around. But if I open my foot, now I'm running straight. So
one of the things you talked about, Joel, was the 60-40. And one of my questions is that what happens if you have too much weight on that front foot? What if it's 70-30? Is there a big difference in that?
Well, there's no difference. I mean, I believe everybody's they're going to feel the coordination not under control. And because number one is my first priority as a base stealer or base runner is to not get picked off. So I'm positioning myself first to go back to first. My second position is going to transition into the sprinter's starting blocks, which is going to get me low, my head straight, and my arms and knees in line with second base or behind second base. So the transition from all of these positions to my first move, honestly, you have to turn your hips. And I talked about the importance of hips before, and I have to get my hips square. So I have to get this action square. So now my legs are underneath my hips. And so I really believe the right foot position is huge. It's not going to slow you down from getting back. And the 60-40, the way you get out of this position is to take the drop step. And I'll show you that on another slide.
You know, one of the things you said, and every base runner always have to understand that, about going back to first base. And I think you hit that very well when you said a 60-40 instead of a little bit more weight on that front foot, because you could easily get picked off if you got too much weight. As a pitcher, I'm watching you with that weight on that front foot, and that's a sign that you're going to go. So 60-40, 50-50, as long as you can make that move back to first base is the most important.
Well, you know something also, Bill? I think every baseball player, when he takes his lead off at first base, should look like he wants to steal all the time. So the pitcher cannot identify any difference in his lead. I want to be in an aggressive position. Everything's under control, and I want to be consistent with my lead. I'm not a person that likes the false break because you bring attention to yourself. I don't like that. I want the pitcher to say, I want to tell the pitcher, don't worry about me. I'm not going anywhere. Don't worry about me. Leave me alone. You know, you don't want to bring attention to yourself where they're looking, or the first baseman saying, watching, always just be the quiet person over there. I'm not going, I don't want to run today. And then take advantage of them. First move. Now we talked about positioning ourselves at first base, the 60-40, the hands, the elbows, behind first base, all these. Now we're going to talk about what happens next. You have to transfer your body weight. I've talked about this a little bit earlier. I have to transfer. So I'm on 60, but I have to get my feet behind my chest. So now my chest is in front of my feet, so I'm pushing my body. It's a lot easier to push than it is to pull. And so remember those angles I showed everybody, those angles on all the sprinters, the base runners? That's because the chest is in front of the knees. That means the weight, you have your weight distributed correctly, so you can run as fast as you can by pushing your body. That's transfer of body weight right there. See how far he moved from the start? Look at the angle again. See this angle? The same thing I talked about before with the sprinters, the same angle. This is a front view. You can see the hips are getting close, the shoulders are getting straight, the head's still down. He's transitioned. He's right before he's picking up that foot. This is, it's not perfect, but it's a good shot. Use the drop step. So the drop step, I want everybody to understand what the drop step means. And I'm going to back up and show you this. So this is a drop step. A lot of people have taught this in baseball where they say, well, this is one less step. It should be quicker. It's incorrect because now look at this position. Look at my hips. But if I take a drop step, now look at my knee. My knee's pointed. Where's my knee pointed at now? Over here. Now this knee's it's pointing to third base. Now I have this line. So if I take the drop step, now I have my knee, which my foot's under my knee, shin angle. That is huge, creating shin angle. Now I'll show you what that is. This is shin angle right here, right there. You have to create that. This is not a good one right here to show shin angle. He's getting there. This is the best position to accelerate, right up here. See that line? I have the body in line, trying to get in line with the base path. I have the weight transitioning to in front of my knees so I can drive and push my body. This is how you accelerate. Same as a sprinter, exactly the same. You get in the starting blocks, you come out, you're going to end up in the same position. The only difference of a baseball player, we start in a different position. So we have to try to somewhat transition to the starting blocks so we can drive and keep ourselves straight.
Joel, a great demonstration right there when you got up and showed us the drop step and the different angles that you showed us. It really illustrates exactly the points in these pictures of having that drop step. Does it matter, though, how fast you open that up?
Well, yes, it does. That's your very first move. It's a very quick, and if you watch this, I want everybody to understand. So if I'm sitting here and I go drop step, look at my right arm. The arm goes with the leg. 1, 2. Now, so 1, 2. So it's very quick. Now look at this. It's different. But if I'm here, drop step arm, now my right hand is in sync with my left foot. I'm focused. I don't have to worry about my strides anymore. I'm in perfect sync to take my next stride. And
that's exactly how the sprinters did. You showed exactly how those runners did with your arms and your hands in the right location. Outstanding work today, Joel.
All right. Following the first move. So we've transitioned. We've taken our leads. We told you about all the different aspects of how to improve your lead position, what will improve your speed. We talked about the drop step, how to get into the sprinter's fundamentals on the first step. Now, there's on the left, this is the bad, this is the good. This is the same person. And this is what I used to do with my players with the Diamondbacks. I would take them out and I would have them do it the wrong way or the way that they normally do it. And I'd have them do it the right way. And I would sync it up so they could see the difference of both. Remember before I told you cannot be deductive to yourself until you're able to see it. So I can tell you all as much as I want what you're doing wrong. Until you understand what you're doing wrong, you're not going to make a change. And we have to identify where is the necessary need to change to improve my ability. So let's play this video so you can see it. Now I have it slowed down. Remember, on this right here, I told him not take a drop step. I told him to take a drop step. See the elbow? See where the hand is outside the knee? See this hand? This is the normal leads you'll see all the time in baseball. Now watch. See how he's struggling here? Look at his arms. Look how lean forward. Look at the angle of him. Now slow motion, watch it very closely. Watch him struggle here. Look at the difference of the turn.
Boy, you do see a big difference right there, and just how you slowed it down, just the way his momentum is going and head down and the direction to second base. Outstanding work right here, Joel.
So all the things that we've covered in this class will put you in a better position to create a shorter time to get to second base or third base. This information, it's not going to, it just doesn't work. You have to work at everything that we tell you. You have to practice to get results to become confident. So you have to work at this. Base stealers or runners don't normally work because they know they're quick. You have to practice. Now we have some speed mechanics discussions. And I know, Bill, we've talked about this a little bit before. One of the things I'd like to talk about, do you have any questions, Bill? Yeah,
I got a couple that come to mind right off the bat, and I'm an average base runner and I'm watching this class. What are some of the things that you can tell me as an average base runner? How do I increase my best, track star image when I'm at first base? Some of the key points you can stress to me.
Well, number one is make sure you're walking straight or you're running straight. Make sure your feet are in front of your knees, not on the side of your knees. Number two is when you need to practice. And how do we practice? Well, as baseball players, you always go up and warm up. If you're not working on your steel break when you warm up, you're wasting your time. You're going to have to run. So if you're going to run, let's use this time to practice a skill set. Practice. So before the season starts, you should start taking breaks off the foul line. Not quick, slow, feeling it. feeling the transition, getting accustomed to it. Then the more accustomed you get to it, the quicker you accelerate or blast. And pretty soon it becomes natural, but you have to work on it. You just can't watch this classroom and say, oh, I got it now. No, 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 you have to go work on it. There has to be some effort put into your ability to improve. If you work on it, you will improve. Understanding stride length times stride frequency. So if you're really fast moving your feet, all you have to do is enlarge your strides. So when you're running, just enlarge. See how far you can take a stride, and pretty soon you'll start feeling comfortable. We pointed on this earlier, go on the field. If the field is clean, go take a couple of breaks and go check your feet. Measure how far your first 2 or 3 steps are. Are you increasing distance? This brings an awareness to you. So you're aware of, oh, I'm doing it right now. You know, if you get into too long of a stride to start off with, you just slowed yourself down because now your weight's behind you and you're just trying to take a long stride, but you haven't created the momentum yet where you can maintain that speed. So these are the things I think as any runner or base stealer is to go out every time you have to run, assume you're taking a steal break off of first base and learn how to master the techniques that are necessary to improve your skill set.
And one of the big points, Joel, we talk about all base runners, they got to make sure they stretch those legs, hamstrings, calves. Those are big points that you can bring up right now. And some of the stretches that these runners need to do before they actually go to sprinting.
Absolutely. And also, Bill, you have to run. You know, everybody, I know a lot of baseball players, and when I was coaching with the Diamondbacks, would come to spring training and they would just run long distance or something. No, 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 no. You have to run the bases. You know, you have to run. It has to be short burst of speed. You know, nobody likes to run 10 sprints because it's harder. They would rather run 20 minutes because they said they did their running. No, no, we're not pitchers. We're not running out there just to give us endurance. We're running to try to control techniques and quickness. And so we have to, you know, if you want to work on your turns at first base, then run from home to second. If you want to work on your steal breaks, go from first to second. If you need to run before the game, practice some steal breaks on the foul line when you're warming up. Always, always trying to complement your skill set to become a better player or to understand fully what you're trying to control to be a better player. And if we're not trying to be the best player we possibly can, something's wrong.
Well, there's no doubt, Joel, that you are an outstanding base running coach. That's why you've coached in the big leagues. That's why you've coached in the minor leagues. Some of the great base runners definitely have gone through your teaching. And I want to thank you for the great class you put on, a lot of great illustrations, and your personal touch. I love that when you got out of the chair, moved around, and you showed your speed. So great class, Joel.
Well, thank you, Bill. And I just posted the next base running class will be posted on the calendar if you're interested in other parts of base running. I call it it's the knowledge of baseball that we're trying to educate with. And I use a little stick figure up here so we can kind of understand the mechanical aspect. You can create mechanical aspects even with the drawing. So if we can do it with a drawing, you should be able to do it yourself. And I really appreciate this opportunity to thank you for coming to my class, and hopefully you learned something from me today.
Well, Joe, we want to thank you and thank all the people that are out there watching Big League Coaching today. You can also look at Joel's other classes in outfield, hitting, and base running. Check out the bigleaguecoaching.pro, and we will definitely see you again. See you later, Joel. Have a good day.
Thank you, Bill. It was great to be here, man.